So my name is Hiren Patel. I'm a PhD student in physics department. So I'm also exploring the other science branches. Like we have a neuroscience and cognitive science to understand ourselves, to understand the human behavior. So why we need spirituality and Vedas? What type of the question it will address is that is not covered in our science branches.
This is a great question. Thank you so much for joining my reaction channel. I'm Cody. This is Acharya Prashant answering a very interesting question. I'm very, very, very intrigued to see how he answers this.
Yeah. The difference primarily is that when you go into neuroscience or please sit, or the science of cognition, the various branches of philosophy, including psychology, you remain at your own center. You hold on to your identity, the self, and holding on to yourself, you want to accumulate knowledge about this and that, which might even include knowledge about the self. For example, in neuroscience, right? So here am I. What is the name, please? Hiren. So I'm Hiren, and Hiren wants to know about the inner neural networks. But Hiren wants to know about them remaining. That's not something to be questioned. And even if some kind of questioning does occur, even if some kind of deconstruction does occur, it's going to be accidental. Otherwise, remaining myself, I want to accumulate knowledge around myself. So here I am, I sit on this chair, and there is knowledge on my table. Bring me more books here, bring me more knowledge here. All around myself, I gather knowledge, and what does that knowledge do? It fortifies me. It becomes my armor.
Yep.
It protects me. Now, who is being protected? Who is at the center of everything? Hiren. Now, spirituality, or rather the field of self-knowledge, starts from a very different point. It does not say I'll remain myself and I'll accumulate knowledge, and that knowledge might actually reinforce who I am or have accidentally become, unconsciously become.
This is where it's going to get good, I guarantee it.
I do not do that. I start from my suffering, my inner angst. I see I am not all right. I have no primary interest in knowledge. When you are a student of, let's say, psychology, then your primary interest is? Psychology. In spirituality, the primary interest is not in any kind of knowledge. Neither the knowledge of the world nor the knowledge of the self. The primary problem is the problem of human suffering.
I love this. The last video we did reacted to AP is he really broke down spirituality is really the emphasis is on human suffering and how to eradicate human suffering. That is the main thing when it comes to spirituality. And I think enlightenment is into your own personal suffering, where you can exist in the world without this infallible suffering that's looming, this angst always, ever so present. And that's the human condition. I think that's what spirituality is answering that question. And it's really cool because it then reinforces why spirituality is so important, especially to a young audience where our culture in America has changed. I don't know about in India, but like less people are looking into caring about religion and spirituality. And I know we can give things bad raps, but I think trying to look inwards to find a inner technology or a solution to our everyday mental hiccups or challenges or chaos, I think that needs to be a fundamental core ingredient into anybody's life. I think to ignore this is to pay so much attention to the material out here, not just the material, like the roadmap out here and what's important out here, and not give any not care, but like specialized attention to how maybe this should operate, how maybe this could operate at its most nth degree, the best possible way. I think that's what spirituality is. It's a practical solution. And that's what we noticed with AP's talk yesterday, is it's not anything outside of ourselves that we can't prove. Truth is really about our centers, our cores, and all of our power is generated from within. How we perceive is how we feel is how we perceive. So it's all interconnected, but it boils down to the essential area of human suffering. And I've always been intrigued by this. I've always wanted to end my own suffering, and I always wanted to end the suffering of those around me. I hate seeing people hurt. Everyone does. And my whole life I have searched for like the answer. And nearly 40 years old, I'm still trying to seek outside of myself. And what I've realized more and more is that the answer has never been out there. It's always been within. And that has moved me into a different trajectory. Thanks a lot to AP.
The problem of the fundamental human condition. We are born, we live, we die. What the hell is this? That's the primary problem. And I'm looking at it not just as an objective spectator, but as an active participant. It is happening to me. It is very personal. It is happening to me. But at the same time, it is universal because it is happening to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a general problem worth addressing because it is a universal problem. What can be a bigger problem than the problem of universal human suffering?
There isn't.
What can be a bigger challenge than that of universal human suffering? The same suffering that we hide behind so many things. Entertainment, even knowledge, so-called distractions, achievements, pleasures, accumulations, prestige, sanctions and approvals from all around. We hide that fact of human suffering behind all these things. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem that we want to address. So now I want to look at, why am I suffering? Why am I suffering? And that immediately takes me to the question, who am I? And when I look at myself, I say, I might be Hiren, who is a student, but I'm still suffering. And suffering does not really mean that you have to exhibit loud symptoms of suffering. You don't really have to groan. You don't really have to yell. Suffering can be very subtle. For example, ambition. Ambition is a subtle form of suffering.
I suffer immensely from ambition. I suffer immensely from ambition because I always want to grow, evolve, and achieve goals and make something of myself. But how can you make something of yourself when you showed up here fully complete already? And that's something that I've figured out, is that none of this, even when I do hit like a true mountaintop, something spectacular, a peak of what I was capable of, which I've hit a few peaks in my life, you don't get any more fulfillment, because when you hit that peak, and you've heard it, there's an even bigger one. You're like, holy shit, I have to start this all over again. And so ambition is suffering. But I think there's a core element here to realize that you are complete fully as you showed up here. So there's nothing outside of you that will make you complete. A partner, a mission, a purpose, an achievement, an accolade, status, money. It's not going to make you more complete. It may give you more comfort in life. It may make you more respectable in life. But deep down, it doesn't eradicate suffering whatsoever. And in fact, the more you actually obtain, the more you've got to lose. And so these people who have a lot to lose are suffering. So what's the right play? Well, what I'm finding out for myself is that the play is to feel fully complete already, where there's nothing I need outside of my own self to be fully complete, fully enlightened. It has never been about anything out there. It's always been about me in my center. That changes what ambition looks like. It changes why we're being ambitious. I can enjoy the game. I don't have to, I want to be the best this because I want to work hard. But if that's the end result, I'm suffering literally every step of the way, To know that you're fully complete already, you then can enjoy the playfulness today, the growth today, the trials today, the when you work out, because I'm a big fitness guy, I'm a personal trainer. It's painful, but there's something very extraordinary about it. I can enjoy that process, that discomfort. The discomfort becomes fun, not because of a further objective, but because I'm fully alive, striving in a non-suffering way, although my physical body is completely under suffering. That's what I love about life, is the more you kind of break it down, the more paradoxical it becomes. And the brain hates paradoxes. It struggles with paradoxes. It wants very clear things. And that's what I love about life. It's got a lot of paradoxes, and it's very fun. It's very fun. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Let's get back to AP.
Are you getting it? And obviously, we know about anxiety and
One more. I'm so sorry, but I think this is important. Just like me, like on this YouTube channel, I would have 100,000 subscribers, right? I have a goal. I have ambition. But if I only have 6 and I want 100, and I think that, man, I got to strive with ambition to get my 100,000, when I get to that 100,000, I'm going to want 1 million. You know it. And I'm going to be in the same boat, feeling like I'm not good enough, feeling like I don't have anything to offer because I don't have enough people paying attention. That is a lack mentality. But what if I realize that I am fully, innately, 1 billion% complete already? And so what I'm doing is I'm just appreciating what I can do in this video. There's nothing beyond this video. I am an animated, alive, full-fledged human being, and I like to share in things that I think will help other people eradicate suffering. That's way more fun, and I can enjoy this video way more by just doing that rather than thinking about an end goal. Does that make sense? So whatever you're doing, like, it's good to have end goals and roadmaps, but please enjoy. Like, don't be 40 like me and then like keep suffering because you're not where you want to be. I know when I'm 80 and I keep up with the same attitude, I'll be 80 and not be where I want to be. But instead I can go, dude, I'm fully complete. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm lacking nothing. Then I can enjoy my life fully. There's a trap there looking ahead. I think somehow we're brainwashed to look ahead and rather instead of just appreciate the very existence that we are. Kind of like we were when we were children. When we were children, we wanted to be a doctor, an astronaut, sure, but we didn't wrap a whole identity in it and be mad because we weren't it yet. We knew how to play. We knew how to let go and just live and breathe and appreciate the spontaneous within ourselves.
and depression and other kinds of. And obviously, we know about anxiety and depression and other kinds of mental ailments. With them, it is easier to associate the word suffering. But when we say love is another form of suffering, that raises heckles. How come love is another form of suffering? Because most of what we call as love is just biological movement resulting in attachment. There is no real love in it. So even ambition is suffering, love is suffering, whatever else we call as stuff that we venerate is suffering. So there is Hiren. Hiren is a student, but he's a suffering student. Hiren is a male, but he's a suffering male. Hiren is an Indian, but he's a suffering Indian. Hiren is a cricket lover or a rugby lover, but he's a suffering cricket lover. Hiren is a well-paid employee, but he's a suffering well-paid employee. So if I want to address my condition, what is my fundamental condition?
Suffering.
The underlying all-pervasive foundation, what is it? Suffering. So when I say, why am I suffering? I said that brings us to the question, who am I? And the only answer to that is, I am the sufferer. Because whatever else I might be, I suffer in that condition. I'm laughing. Even while laughing, I remain suffering. Now, that kind of sensitivity is rare. Gautam Buddhist sensitivity. where you can see suffering and angst, even in a laughing face. In tears, obviously, we all see suffering. While it is not really necessary that tears are symptomatic of suffering, but it requires a really sensitive mind to see that most of what we call as laughter and pleasure and enjoyment too is a product of suffering. So spirituality addresses the sufferer, the one sitting here. The one sitting here. Now to address it, then you might require knowledge. Then you might require knowledge. So for example, the Upanishads will say that if you want to go beyond this vast pool of suffering, the Bhavasagar, then you require both Vidya and Avidya. What is Vidya? Knowledge of the self, how my inner processes operate.
He who knows knowledge and ignorance together.
What is Avidya? Knowledge of all the other things in the universe. You require both of them. And not only do you require both of them, when the knowers are asked to choose which of these two
Overcomes death through ignorance and attains immortality through knowledge.
is more important when it comes to liberation. You know what the sages said? They said, avidya is more important. Avidya.
I think liberation is another word for not suffering, right? Would we all agree with that? As that if we're liberated from within, we're not bogged down by the mind, the body's emotions. We don't take it all so seriously, but we know that it's there. Does that make sense? I think there's something very amazing in that. And I relate life a lot to sports because I played sports my whole life. And when you're in the moment of competitive play, let's say basketball, it's 5 versus 5. You got a shot clock, you got a game clock, and you got all this stress on like you need to win. You need to make the play. But if you just make winning a backseat and you just allow and you breathe with clarity and ease, if you can adopt ease into your performance, you let go of trying to control the outcome. And somehow, again, paradoxically, when you let go in a basketball game, you play your best. I was the first team All-State Kansas basketball player. There's only 5 in the state. And the best games I had was that I just had this ease in my gameplay. In the worst game I averaged like 20.4 points per game. I had like 4 30-point games, but I had 3 8-point games. And it was 8-point games where I could do nothing right. I couldn't even dribble. I was so stuck in my head. I was rigid and stiff. I was making bad decisions, and I didn't know what was going on. And I realized that it was because I was suffering. Now I see that I was suffering. I was just trying to do too much because I was just trying to do too much. And a lot with our minds is we try to control it. We try to do too much with the mind instead of just letting go and just realizing that we can perform. And the only thing that is really in our control is our attitude. And if we can adopt a clear, fundamental, free, liberated attitude, we can kind of control our destiny. Does that make sense? We have a lot more freedom within. And that changes everything. That changes the playing field of life.
Meaning this worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge means knowledge of objects, things that you perceive through your senses. So, this seeker of liberation is going to chase knowledge, but not for the sake of knowledge, but for the sake of freedom from suffering. That's the difference between something like neuroscience and spiritual science. Neuroscience.
So that really helps me see clearly why I've always been into spiritual texts, reading books about spirituality, is because it liberates me. I basically use other teachings to help liberate my ease in life, my suffering in life. But now I'm getting to a point where I realize that it's never been about the text. It's always been about me and how I've oriented myself because of the text. And that you don't need the text. You just need yourself. Does that make sense? There's power in that. There's power in like getting out of the, hey, I need this to be liberated. No, you need only yourself to be fully liberated. There's something that's very different about that approach.
You can sit here, become somebody, become a scholar, become an HOD, and yet remain suffering. Because it was never your intention in the first place to get rid of suffering and live life as joyfully as possible. The very starting point was that of remaining who you are and gathering more knowledge to appear knowledgeable or to earn worldly goodies, or to just become respectable and knowledgeable in your own eyes. Spirituality too gathers knowledge. It is indispensable. You cannot not know the sciences, the arts. You cannot be low on general awareness and yet hope to be liberated. So even in the field of self-knowledge, there is a great emphasis on being knowledgeable in as many fields as possible. But knowledge not for the sake of knowledge. Knowledge for the sake of liberation.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. Knowledge not for the sake of knowledge, knowledge for the sake of liberation. Amen to that. Amen to that.
The difference, and that's a massive difference. Massive difference.
The same difference that I was trying to describe as well.
Because we have just so many examples of people who are just so knowledgeable, extremely scholarly, encyclopedias in flesh and blood, and yet their insides are very rotten. Don't we come across such people every day? Sometimes we come across such a figure even in the mirror. Does it not happen? You know so much, and yet you know.
Rotten within. We have all experienced people rotten within. And life can stack and make us rotten within. And that just leads to a whole pool of misery. And I think spirituality helps unlock that misery. It helps us move beyond it. It helps us not get trapped like that. Imagine yourself more free and at ease. How you're going to show up for yourself and all those around you. That's a beautiful state. And it's, I think, one that we should all fall into.
Know that you sting from within. Does it not happen? It does happen with me sometimes. Doesn't happen with you? Oh, surprise. So you get the difference? The difference is in the very intention. And the commonality is that both of these fields respect knowledge a lot. Kindly do not think that spirituality implies becoming a Babaji who gives 2 hoots to the world. No. If you do not know how the world operates, you cannot know how the self operates, because the world and the self are mirror images of each other. And the world is a place that is verifiable, where you can conduct experiments, where somebody else can come and falsify what you are claiming. When it comes to objective material, there your claims can be verified, falsified, peer-reviewed, everything, right? But when it comes to the inner world, and you say, I am feeling blissful because I'm meditating, nobody can come and verify it, and you might be bluffing to yourself, as most meditators do. And you're telling yourself, I'm all full of peace. How do we know? How do even you know? What's your definition of peace, sir? And where is it coming from? So, if you want to know the self, you will have to know the world, because these two move in tandem. These two move in tandem. Even the spiritual person, really spiritual person, is very, very keen on knowing the latest developments in science and all other fields. But not so that he can become more full of knowledge. In fact, if you go to the highest scriptures, they will say the final bondage is knowledge itself. Because if you are identified with your knowledge, then you remain just a jnani, not a mukta. So a point has to come where even knowledge becomes your plaything, not that you delete.
Knowledge becomes a plaything. I love that. I love that. That really fits in with my own kind of inner philosophy. That knowledge itself becomes a plaything. Like I said, it was never about the pursuit of other text and spiritual knowledge. That's beautiful. Good stuff.
Delete it from your memory. Not that you stop using it, but you stop identifying with it. Otherwise, knowledge can be a big burden. So the final thing is, keep all your knowledge aside and become free. Become free. This ultimate freedom is not something that scholars target, usually. That's the difference. Yes, more on this, please. Yes, please.
Hi, myself Pushpendra.
Guys, that is absolutely beautiful. I love this question. I love AP's articulation and powerful stuff, potent. And I hope that this video has really helped you ease the tensions within, giving you some solutions or tools to add to your tool belt, and realize that you're in full control. And it's not the mind that's in control. Guys, I love you. I hope this video was great. Please leave a like, a comment, what you thought of AP's teachings, my feedback, and I'll definitely catch you guys on the next reaction video. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your energy, and I'll see you next time. Take care for now.